Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the FAU Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute and the John and Barbara Ferreira Ocean Science Lecture Series. My name is Jennifer Cutter, and I'm the Assistant Director of Education and Outreach. For nearly 30 years, this series has been at the heart of our community outreach, and it's your involvement that keeps it going. We're glad to have you with us and hope you enjoy learning about the great work underway here. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to thank everyone who supports FAU Harbor Branch. I'd especially like to recognize John and Barbara Ferreira, along with those who donate to the Ocean Science Lecture Series and make evenings like this possible. Community support impacts so much of what happens here, from the research taking place behind the scenes to the education and outreach programs we share with the community. So, as you listen this season, you may find a topic or a project that sparks your interest. When that happens, there are a lot of meaningful ways to get involved, from volunteering your time or sharing what you've learned with others to making a gift in a way that's right for you, including some of the options you see behind me. If you're interested in exploring any of these opportunities, we are always happy to talk with you after the lecture. I also want to thank all of the staff here that help with the series, as well as our speakers. This program would not be possible without you. Next, a few general announcements. As we get started, please take a moment to ensure that your cell phones are on silent. This season, lectures will take place each week through March 25th. Your registration covers access to all of them, so no need to sign up again, and please encourage your friends and family to join us by signing up as well. Each presentation is also available virtually, so hello and welcome to everyone who is streaming online, and they're recorded, so if you miss one or if you want to watch it back again, you can do so on our website. For those here in person, after each lecture, we will be hosting a meet and greet with our speaker, along with cookies in the gallery. We'd love for you to stay and encourage you to strike up a conversation with our staff, scientists, and students. This is a great way to learn a little bit more about FAU Harbor Branch. Special for today's lecture, which I think some of you experienced beforehand, we are highlighting our education programs and we're having an open house. Be sure to check out our teaching laboratories across the hall, student posters in the gallery, and go outside to explore our Discovery floating classroom and life-size humpback inflatable whale. As always, we'll have our pop-up gift shop available if you want to do any shopping. Finally, mark your calendar for next week's lecture on March 4th, which is titled Plague Hunters, The Race to Find the Cause of the World's First Pandemic by Dr. Greg Okari-Crow, who does fascinating multidisciplinary research from the Arctic to the Indian River Lagoon. We hope you'll join us for an exciting dive into the world of genetics. Which brings us to today's presentation by Dr. Gabby McHenry, which is titled From Classroom to Coastline, Preparing the Next Wave of Ocean Leaders. Dr. McHenry is the Director of Education and Outreach here at FAU Harbor Branch. She's a triple alumna of FAU with more than 15 years of experience in marine science, education, science communication, and community engagement. As a scientist, she worked on a variety of research projects from environmental microbiology to shark ecology, and even traveled 3,000 feet below the surface aboard the Johnson Sea Link submersible. As an educator, she works to make marine science accessible and interesting to everyone in our community, and over the last 10 years has led the expansion of FAU Harbor Branch's public education and outreach programs. Today, she oversees a portfolio of more than 15 community outreach offerings, including exhibitions, lecture series, tour programs, special events, citizen science projects, K-12 academic, research, after-school and summer experiences, educator research resources, and more. She's excited to share her knowledge and passions with others so that they, too, will be excited about science and the underwater world. As an aside, I started working with Gabby in 2017. She is the hardest working person I know, and everything you're about to hear about would not be possible without her impressive skills, both as a scientist and an educator. I know you're all used to seeing her at our lectures, but she does so much more than that, and I'm very excited for you all to learn about that tonight. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Gabby. Jen, you're the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. It's so great to see you all. I'm so sorry that I missed the last 2 weeks. Some of you might have heard I had an unexpected trip to the ER and a 6-day hospital stay on surgery, so I learned a lot about gallbladders in the last week, but I'm happy to report that I'm on the mend, and I'm happy to be here to give this presentation tonight. So Thank you all very much for coming to support our programs and learn more about the great education work that we do here. I'm going to couch that by saying if I need to sit, you know why. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So I always like to begin my presentations by saying, with a show of hands, how many of you are first-time visitors to FAU Harbor Branch? All right, only a couple of you. Well, welcome to all of our newbies here, and welcome back to all of those who have been coming for a long time. As you know, we are the northernmost campus of Florida Atlantic University, and we do so many amazing marine science research projects here, from exploring marine environments to studying plants and animals, doing things to help people like discovering new medicines and growing sustainable seafood and developing technology to support our coastal communities. And so our mission here is ocean science for a better world. And we have about 300 scientists, staff, and educators and students here on our campus working to do that. Also, like Dr. Sullivan mentioned in our first lecture, recently the university was designated as an R1 or high research institution, and a lot of that research happens right here on our campus. So we have amazing marine science happening here. Another great thing that we do here is education. Obviously, we're part of a university, and so we have some really wonderful collegiate programs, and some of those are portrayed on the screen here. Our Semester by the Sea program is an undergraduate semester-long program where students will live here on our campus and take fully immersive classes and labs, including field experiences and a research cruise with our faculty. We have an acclaimed international summer internship program that's been going on for over 50 years, and we've had about 700 undergraduate and graduate students participate in that, doing research and presenting their findings. We also have great master's and Ph.D. programs on site. We have anywhere between 60 and 100 graduate students on our campus at any given time. And I can tell you firsthand that these are all amazing programs because I was a participant of all of them. And if you see here on the screen, this is me conducting my Ph.D. research in environmental microbiology. So I am definitely homegrown here at FAU Harbor Branch. But another part of our portfolio that's so important is educating K through 12 students. And that's important because they are the next generation of scientists and ocean stewards. And that's what I really want to focus on today, the amazing portfolio of programs that we have to train those students. So our department, Education and Outreach, encompasses about 15 different programs. And I have a snapshot of what those look like on the screen here for you. And so you can see everything on this side is under our outreach side of the house. So these are programs that you might have participated in before. We have our on-site Ocean Discovery Visitor Center, which is an exhibition hall and aquarium that is amazing. If you haven't been there yet, please stop by on your way into a lecture or come back again to see us. We have great tram and boat tours where you can explore our research campus and the Indian River Lagoon. We have our Ocean Science Lecture Series where you can learn directly from our scientists and experts, as you all know. Our Speakers Bureau program where we take presentations out into the community. And lots of special events. On site here we have our International Ocean Film Festival, which is a hit and actually sold out last year. And out in the community, our team tables at lots of different events to share marine science with attendees. We've got our citizen science program and our traveling whale program, which I'll talk about. So that's the outreach side of things. And the last time I gave a lecture, about 3 years ago, I covered that. So today I'm going to talk to you about our K through 12 programming. And that includes everything on this side of the screen, which is our Marine and Oceanographic Academy, Lincoln Park Academy, MOA Discovery Program, Junior Scientist Program, Ocean Discovery Experience, Discovery Floating Classroom, resources for educators, and in big letters in the bottom, and much more, because there's always lots of different programs going on here. So all of these programs are made possible by an amazing team of ladies that are all sitting in the front row here, so you guys can wave to the audience. They are incredible educators, and they are the boots on the ground and the ones that make everything happen that I'm about to show you. And you'll have an opportunity after my presentation to meet and chat with them. But just to kind of point everybody out, you just met Jen, our Assistant Director of Education and Outreach. We have Sam, our Outreach Coordinator, Lauren, our Education Coordinator, Juliana, who's a graduate student with us in FAU's College of Education, and then our amazing marine educators, Joey, Jolie, Katie, Haley, Alicia, and Sierra. So we've got so many others that work with us on our programs, but this is our core team of full-time employees that you'll learn about all the great things they do as I chat. So I'm going to take you through each of the different K-12 programs, and I'm going to start with our partnership with the school district here in St. Lucie County. And they are one of our longest standing partners. Our partnership with them actually began in 1998 through a program called Lincoln Park Academy, where we would do specialized field trips and lessons for students, and we still do that today. But that program expanded and grew into what's now known as our Marine and Oceanographic Academy, which is in partnership with Fort Pierce Westwood Academy. And if you haven't heard of Fort Pierce Westwood, they just built a brand new high school after 50 years, and they have amazing CTE programs to teach students about careers and different technical skills. And so really, really great school. We're so happy to partner with them. And for our Marine and Oceanographic Academy, we worked with them in 2007 to establish a satellite campus right here on our Harbor Branch campus. So a lot of people don't realize we have a high school right here on our site. And if you take a look at this map here, you can see an aerial photo. Here's our campus, main part of our campus. And then across the street on Old Dixie Highway, this is their school right here. So they have a full school with classrooms, a cafeteria. The students are bused there every day. And you can see what it looks like from the inside here with all the students. But the cool part of this partnership is that our scientists and educators teach 20% of the students' coursework. And so the teachers for the students will teach their lecture component of the class, and we teach the lab components, just like in a university. So all of the coursework that they have is part of the Advanced International Certificate of Education, or ACE, which is very rigorous, kind of like an IB or an AP program. And basically, it's preparing students to do independent research, think critically, and really just make sure that we're preparing them for college. And if they complete this, they're guaranteed a full ride to any Florida university. So, yeah, right, we want to make sure these kids go to college. So really great coursework. And so the classes that we teach for them are biology, chemistry, marine science 1 and 2, and environmental management. And overall, we provide 75 different labs and experiences for these students throughout their school year. So they come over to us. We have their very own dedicated lab within our education center here, and we do all this programming for them. So I'm going to give you a snapshot into what some of those labs look like. So the students get to do a lot of really great experiments, hands-on things, and we want them to do things that are inquiry-driven, right? So we want them to ask questions and let their results lead them to conclusions, right? That's the scientific process. And so in the lab, the students do a lot of work with microscopy. They have chemistry courses where they're doing titrations and distillations. I didn't even do this until I was in general chem in college. So to be working on this as a high school student is really amazing. They get to use spectrophotometers, so the same equipment that our scientists are using in their research laboratories. On the biology side of things, they dissect different animals. One of our newest experiments we did this year was actually looking at fish genetics using molecular tools, which again, that's something I didn't do till I was in graduate school. So really cool work. They get to do lots of different hands-on activities and even learn about some of the same techniques that our scientists use in the field. Which brings us to their field component of their work. So here at FAU Harbor Branch, we are lucky because we're located right along the Indian River Lagoon, which is one of the most biologically diverse estuaries in our country. And we have great access points for these students to do labs directly out in the water. And so for different classes, they do a lot of different activities. For their environmental management class, the students go out quarterly and they do a seagrass survey off of one of our beaches here, and they look at the abundance of the different seagrasses, counting the different blades. They also seine and collect different fish and invertebrates that live in the beds, so we can correlate that with what we're seeing with the density of the grasses and compare that with how it changes over the year. They also get to do some traditional ecological studies. Pictured here we have mark and recapture. So this is basically nature's Easter egg hunt. The students go out and they collect a bunch of little tiny snails. They mark them, they put them back in the water, and they have to go find them a few days later. And it is really an Easter egg hunt. But this is really cool because it teaches them a lot about how animals move around within an environment and population dynamics. And I think they were just out doing that lab this week. They're nodding. Yes, it was cold. The students also have their very own fleet of kayaks, so they get to go out and explore the lagoon. And they have premier access to our Discovery Floating Classroom, which you'll learn a lot about in a little bit. And the fun doesn't stop right here on our campus. We also take the students to go shark tagging down in Fort Lauderdale, and that trip's coming up next month with our partners from Nova Southeastern University. You can see the students catching a shark, measuring it, and putting a tag on it. So really well-rounded experiences in the field. The other great thing is that these students have direct access to our faculty and our researchers here at FAU Harbor Branch. And so we have a lot of great opportunities for them to work together. The students get to participate in a marine mammal rescue experience, except instead of a dolphin, they rescue one of their classmates and load them into the ambulance. They get behind-the-scenes tours of our research areas. So here you can see Dr. Jim Masterson leading a tour of our aquaculture park and our seagrass nursery. They get to go in some of our research laboratories, and these two photos show them learning from current graduate students, learning about some of the technical diving that we do, and also some of the work that we do with biogeochemistry. And they get to learn directly from some of our faculty in our biomedical research group, especially through that chemistry course that I mentioned. If you all came for Dr. Esther Guzman's talk a few weeks ago, you know that she does a lot of work with cancer. The students get to go in her lab and learn how she images cells, and they get to also see Dr. Priscilla Winder and bring a sample to run on one of their fancy machines. So really cool for them to interface directly with these great scientists here. So if we look at some statistics over time of the program, so the program began in 2007, like I mentioned, and you can see for the first couple of years, we were kind of adding a grade each year. The program started just with trailers right here off to the side of our building. So now that we have this amazing campus, it's grown tremendously. There are currently 270 students enrolled. But the school has capacity for 400, and so school leadership, Miss Alicia Kennedy, their assistant principal, is here today. They've been so amazing, and they have all of these great ideas to continue to grow and support the program. And so far, we've had 722 students who have graduated from it, and we recently pulled admissions data from FAU to see how many of the students were going on into our university, and we found that there are 72 students that were admitted into FAU during that time, and over half of them declared a STEM major, so that's good. And 20% of these students were admitted to our honors college, which has a very academically rigorous and researched focus plan of study. So these students are actually going on into research areas. And that's so important because a lot of these students, especially in St. Lucie County, come from areas that don't often have a lot of resources. And many of these students are the first in their families to go to college. So this is a huge win for us. So our Marine and Oceanographic Academy is possible due to an amazing team of people, both within our organization, with the school district, and the St. Lucie Education Foundation, who are all working together to grow and support this program. Some cool things that we have on the horizon is that we are revisiting dual enrollment opportunities for these students so that when they're in their senior year, they can start to get college credit through FAU, which is great. We're also working to create a research capstone project for these students so that they can do an internship and get hands-on research experience. And we want to try to expand pipeline opportunities, not only into FAU as a university, but also to get more students into the MOA program. And so there is a MOA preparatory program at Forest Grove Middle School. And thanks to all of these amazing minds here, this year we were able to create a MOA Discovery Elementary program. And so this is now the only continuous education program in St. Lucie County. We have a MOA elementary, middle, and high school. So students interested in marine science can go through this entire pipeline, and hopefully we'll grab them at the end and get them into FAU. So for the MOA Discovery Program, this is based at Francis K. Sweet Elementary in Central Fort Pierce. And the St. Lucie Education Foundation got a grant from the IRL National Estuary Program to establish it this year, and we are their primary partner in creating lessons and also a laboratory on site at the school for the students. And so we just started these lessons a few months ago, and you can see Alicia, one of our educators. She goes to the school every month, and she teaches every single student there. That's 394 students a week. So she's nodding her head. She's like, yes, that's a lot of kids. She does a great job. So she does a presentation and then a variety of hands-on activities. So far the students have learned about habitats in the lagoon, water quality, and dolphins. And some of the lessons we have coming up include sharks and fish, plankton, and restoration. And we'll also be bringing the students here to FAU Harbor Branch for some boat tours and a behind-the-scenes look at our seagrass nursery. So they've got a lot of really cool things in store. All right, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about another initiative, and this is our Discovery Floating Classroom. So by a show of hands of everyone here, who has been on one of our public boat tours before? Oh my gosh, that's great. Okay, wow. Oh, I wish I had my phone. I'd take a picture of you all. That's amazing. That made my day. Awesome. So as you all know, we have a 36-passenger pontoon, our Discovery, and we use it for public tours out on the Indian River Lagoon. And several years ago, I found a grant opportunity from the Environmental Protection Agency that aimed to introduce students to nature as a way to get them interested in environmental stewardship and STEM careers so that we can prepare the next generation of problem solvers and resource managers, which of course, if you've been coming to these lectures, you know we really need for ecosystems like the Indian River Lagoon. And so we were awarded a $400,000 grant to establish a field trip program on our Discovery Floating Classroom. And this was definitely a multi-organization effort. So we worked with the Boys and Girls Clubs of St. Lucie County. They're one of our most amazing partners. Thank you, Gabby. She's here today. And also the St. Lucie County School District. They were our two primary partners. But in total, we worked with organizations across 7 different counties in order to offer these field trips. And what we did was we offered field trips every summer to kids that were in camps, and then every fall to kids that were in school. And I'll walk you through their experience. So every single one of these field trips, which were around 2 to 3 hours, depending on the time of year and how hot and rainy it was, the students would start right here in our auditorium, where we would give them a presentation all about the Indian River Lagoon and all the information that they needed to then go on their trip. Next, they would get out on the water, and if you haven't been on the Discovery before, one of the coolest features of the boat is that every row of seats has a TV screen on it, and we use that screen to show a variety of content throughout the experience. And so you can see what kind of like the boat looks like and the screens here. And one of the neat things, is that, so for example, as the kids are spotting animals, right, a dolphin swims up along the side of the boat, we can show them on the screen how each dolphin has a unique dorsal fin and talk about how our scientists are identifying animals. So it's a really great way to take what they're learning and bring it back to the science that we do here. The students are also able to take a pre and post quiz, which is really important for us to understand their knowledge before and after the experience. And so we have a 10 question survey that we deploy. And we try to ask the students about their knowledge about the lagoon and a little bit about them so we can understand the impact of our program. And alongside that, the students are also equipped with things like binoculars, and we've got lots of other cool props like bones, manatee skulls, shells, etc. But by far, the coolest thing, I think, on the boat is our underwater drone, our remotely operated vehicle. And so we have a lot of scientists here that use ROVs, or remotely operated vehicles, for their research. And we actually have a research-grade ROV on the boat. And so during the field trip experience, we do several dives in the lagoon to show students up close some of the habitats that we have here. And so you can see on the screen, we do a sponge and oyster reef site. We do a seagrass bed. They see lots of different fish. Here pictured is a Goliath grouper, a juvenile. As you know, these can grow up to be the size of a car, but we've got these little babies right here in our channel. But also lots of really cool fish like snapper and tarpon. We've even seen invasive lionfish before. But by far, the coolest thing that we've seen excuse me, on the drone is this manatee munching on seagrass. And if you look, you can even see the seagrass hanging out of his little mouth here. So such a cool way to expose students to a habitat that they would otherwise never get to see. And they get to see it right in front of them on the screen. And as you can tell from this fella here, it is literally mind-blowing. So really impactful that they get to explore these habitats from the bottom up. They also get to have a lot of experience with different tools that scientists use to study the lagoon. And so on every trip, they do a plankton tow. So they collect some of the microscopic plants and animals in the water column. And you can see that they ID them here using their screens as a guide. They also get to test some water. So they're looking at the salinity, the temperature, the pH. They measure the turbidity with a Secchi disc. So they're using some of the same tools that our scientists use to assess the water. But our scientists also use a lot of really cool tech. And so we have an array of environmental sensors all throughout the lagoon that measures water and weather parameters in real time. And so we pull up next to one of those stations and we let the students compare what they measured themselves to what our machines measure and talk about how it took them 30 minutes to take those measurements and this machine can do it in a snap. So we can expose them to ways that scientists are applying some of this as well. And we're constantly working with our scientists to integrate new things. For example, our fisheries ecology team uses hydrophones to look at underwater acoustics. Our intern this summer integrated a hydrophone and a library of different underwater sounds into the experience so the students could learn about that. And you never know what we'll see out on the water. You can see that we passed a research boat and actually saw scientists working on seagrass in action. So always fun out on the water. So while we were running this program from the summer of 2023 to the end of 2025, and actually we just got another year extension, so we'll be doing even more field trips, we offered 118 field trips total, and we served 2,821 people, and that was a mix of students and chaperones. This is one of the largest engagement efforts here at FAU Harbor Branch to date, so tremendous number of students served. And of those students, only about 100 were repeat students. So a lot of them were getting to go on this experience for the first time. And overall, we served 24 different organizations representing 6 different counties. And from that pre-post assessment, we were able to glean some data. So about 20% of the students had never actually been on a boat before. So really cool experience for them. 44% of the students had never visited the lagoon before, which is so crazy when you think that some of these kids live just 5 miles from the lagoon but had never actually been to it. But the real win is that 80% of them wanted to come back again. So you ladies did your job. That is great. Good news. We also saw some really amazing learning gains. Their knowledge of estuaries increased by 45%. Their understanding of key habitats like seagrasses and mangroves increased by 48%. Their knowledge of human impacts on the lagoon increased by about 30%. Their awareness of the lagoon's value to local communities increased by almost 70%. And their awareness of FAU Harbor Branch research and conservation increased by almost 40%. So that's huge that the students are learning. I know when we first got the data back, we looked at it and we're like, they learned. So we're really excited to see that. They also reported that some of their favorite activities were wildlife spotting, the dives with the ROV, and learning anything with plankton. And we also saw that the students had an increased interest in going into a STEM career and an increased connection to the Indian River Lagoon, which of course was the goal of the project. So if you want to learn more about all of this, one of our students, Juliana, she did an amazing poster that she presented at a conference last week and actually won Best Student Poster, so congrats, Juliana. And she will have this poster out in the gallery if you want to ask her all your questions about her data and more about the program. All right, the next program on our docket is our Junior Scientist program. And this is a partnership with the Indian River Land Trust. And if you're not familiar with the Land Trust, they're an organization in Indian River County that is in the business of preserving and protecting lands. And so they have properties all along the Indian River Lagoon, and they help to conserve them for generations to come. They do amazing work. And so in 2013, we established this program with them to try to expose local students to hands-on research. So trying to train these students how to actually conduct research projects. And what better place to do it than the Coastal Oaks Preserve, which is pictured here. This is a 220-acre preserve just down the road between Highlands and Oslo. And it has lots of different environments that the students can work on. So it's a perfect test bed for their studies. And so since the program began, 208 students have participated, and they've generated over 50 different research projects. And some of the topics they focused on included wildlife ecology, water quality, microbiology, hydrology, vegetation, seagrass ecology, invasive species, sediments, and even impacts of things like sea level rise. And so the goal of this program is to not only expose students to some local habitats, but also learn how scientists study them and how the results from those findings can be used to help encourage resource management and the management of these local preserves. So all of their projects kind of are geared toward that. You can see in this photo here, this is our crop of students from this year. And so basically, the students would meet with us every week after school. And for the entire fall, they completed a research project. And I'm going to give you a snapshot into what those projects look like. So our first team this year worked on seagrass, and their mentor was Haley. And so the students went out into the preserve, and they took these quadrads, and they did what's called a transect. And they would go out 100 meters from the shoreline, and they would measure the amount of seagrass found along that transect. And they did, I think, 8 of them, across the preserve. And so they would go out, they would count their grass, they record their data. They also took sediment samples at these sites too, which they brought back, and they sifted through to see the size of the grain. And then they would weigh them and look at other things like organic matter inside of them. And what they found is that the most abundant type of seagrass was Haliduli wrightii, or shoal grass, which tracks. So our scientists have found this in a lot of their studies as well. And they found that the middle depth, so the middle part of their transect, tended to have the most grass. And this could be due to areas like closer to shore dealing with a lot of wave action, and areas that are deeper dealing with higher turbidity and less light attenuation. They also found that the sites in the center of the preserve had the densest seagrass compared to those on the fringes, which might be next to a drainage canal or a neighborhood. And they found that the seagrass liked this was the project of middles, right? You guys found everything down the middle. The middle grain sediments also tended to be associated with the healthiest seagrass beds. And if you want to learn more about this project and all of these that I talk about, we'll have posters available in the gallery, and all of our instructors after the lecture. You can grill them on the nitty-gritty. The next project looked at the settlement of barnacles. And so barnacles actually start off planktonic, floating around in the water column before they settle. And that's exactly what this program wanted to look at. So the students built these settlement arrays, these big contraptions that they would bring out into the lagoon, and they hung these little acrylic squares. And over the week, the barnacles would settle on them. They'd go out and get their squares. You can see they're all brown and gunky. That's all the stuff that settled on them. They'd bring them back to the lab where they'd photograph them. And then they would look under a microscope and they would count the number of barnacles that they would see with a handheld clicker. They also wanted to see if there was a correlation between what settled on the plate and what was in the water column. And so they would do a plankton tow, and they would also look at that. And that's exactly what they found. So interestingly, there was a huge peak in barnacle density in the water column, and sure enough, the next week they had like thousands of barnacles on their plates. And so they were able to correlate that together. But interestingly, later in the season, they saw another big peak of animals in the water column, but they didn't have as much settlement, and they attested that to, I think, the wind direction changing. So anyway, if you want to learn more about this project, you can chat with Alicia. She was the team lead for this after. And our last project this year focused on a terrestrial project, an upland project. And this has been a continuation of a theme that we've worked on with the Land Trust throughout the entire program, managing some of the wooded areas on their preserve. And so the preserve has some spots that are dominated by Brazilian pepper, which is an invasive tree, and it can be very harmful to native species. And so one of our projects last year actually quantified the amount of Brazilian pepper on a portion of the preserve. And last May, they went through and they removed all of that Brazilian pepper and actually mulched that whole area. And so this year's project came in, and their goal was to look at what that did to the native and the invasive trees in that area. And so this group was led by Allie, who's a graduate student in our PhD program here, and she's been part of this program for several years. And the students went out and they basically counted all of the little plants that they saw growing back. And overall, what they found is that mulching this Brazilian pepper was a very effective way to manage it. They did have some very interesting king tides during the study. So they found that it washed up things like black mangroves, which are typically found closer to the water's edge, into their area. But they did also find recruitment of white mangroves, which is great. We really want to make sure that we're recruiting those species. And that the plants tended to grow best in areas that didn't have a lot of mulch, so had access to the dirt. So this is really great information to the preserve managers and the people who are actually making these decisions to protect these areas. And again, you can learn more by seeing her poster after my talk. So the next part of science is actually synthesizing all the data that you collect into a story and presenting it. And so that's the last component of the program. The students would get together and they'd analyze their data, they'd talk about their trends, and they'd put together these beautiful posters that you saw. We hosted a practice session for all the students to get comfortable presenting a poster in front of our staff, but also their families and friends and some of the FAU Harbor Branch scientists, which just happened last week. And last Thursday, these high school students presented their research posters at the Indian River Lagoon Symposium. And that is a conference that attracts over 350 scientists and resource managers all throughout the state, where they come together and learn about the Indian River Lagoon and research underway. And so for the fact that a high school student gets to go to a conference like this and present what they're doing in that venue is so amazing. And you can see they did such a great job. And here's a group photo of the kids at the end. So really, really amazing work. And I just wanted to show a quick snapshot of some of the quotes that the students told us after participating in the program. We asked them why it was important to protect the Indian River Lagoon, and they say that doing this research helps them to learn more about the lagoon and how they can protect it, so that's great. We asked students why they decided to participate in the program, and one said that they came back because they had such a great time last year. We do have a lot of students that will participate in their junior year and then come back as a senior and serve as a mentor for new students, which is really great. Some students say that they learned more about parts of the lagoon that they never even knew were there and how to work as a team, which is really important no matter what field they go into. They also found that it was really great to be able to do hands-on work and that this could be a career that they could actually see themselves going into. And finally, Jim, I put this one on here for you. They learned that field and lab work isn't always as glamorous as you think it is, but it's even more rewarding because of it. So these students are really getting a lot of great experience. All right, switching gears to another after-school program, our Ocean Discovery Experience. And so this is one of the first programs that I was able to create when I started in my role about 10 years ago. And it's been one of my favorite ones because it's so close to my heart. The idea came together thanks to an amazing couple, Norm and Sandy Stevenson, who basically wanted to find a way to introduce local students to marine science, especially students who don't have the opportunity or the resources to learn about it. And so they came to us. I remember meeting in my office 10 years ago, and we put our heads together and said, how can we come up with some lessons that we can get to these kids? And this all became possible due to the power of partnership. So our partner in this program is the Boys and Girls Clubs of St. Lucie County. And basically, they have all these amazing students and facilities and after-school programs. And we have all this great science and education. So we came together to try to bring it to the kids. And so the program is basically structured where we have science kits and labs to go. So we bring them to Boys and Girls Clubs throughout the county. And we have a classroom dedicated to us after school, and each one has a presentation given by one of our educators, and then a hands-on activity, so different experiments and things where they can learn about different science topics. And then at the end of the program, the students are invited to FAU Harbor Branch to actually see some of the science and technology that they learned about during their lessons. And so this program has grown tremendously over the last 10 years. When we first started, our class was only about 10 students, and I'm happy to say that since then, we've had 1,338 students participate in this program, so a huge effort. And we've gone to more than 10 different Boys and Girls Club locations throughout our county. And when we first started the program, it was primarily for middle school students, but with continued funding and support, we were able to expand it to the full K through 12 pipeline. So now we have lessons for elementary, middle, and high school students, and you can see what these lessons look like. We have this binder that's like this thick, full of lessons and activities. That is our baby. So it's a really, really great program, and we have such great content to share with these students. So this is what some of the lessons look like. For elementary students, we focus on just making the ocean and marine life exciting to them, right? So we look at cool ocean habitats and cool marine animals. So things that we want to pique their interest in the ocean. So they learn about things like dolphins. You can see the students here playing a card game to match those different dorsal fins because each dolphin is unique. And then they create a little hat for themselves with their unique fin. We have a beach box, so just a bin full of sand that the students look through and try to learn about some of the things they can find at their local beaches. They do pin the parts on the shark, where they learn about different shark anatomy. We try to use a lot of different games to get these kids moving. It is an after-school program, so they're just sitting all day, so the last thing we want to do is like stick them in a chair. So we teach them about how queen conch hop around to go where they need to go. So they do a relay race where they jump to pick up algae and compete with their friends. They get to measure the conch shell and learn about the animals. This is actually one of my favorite activities that Katie and Sierra just came up with this year, a Jenga game to teach them about habitats and how everything is connected. And when you remove too much, the habitat can collapse. And then we do a lot of art as well, too. And so art and science are so impactful together. The students make coral reefs. They paint glow-in-the-dark deep-sea animals. So just a way to kind of make science fun. For high school and middle school, the students, oh, and I didn't say this, we've had 700 kids go through this part of the program. For middle and high school, the students focus on things like careers. So they learn about engineering, biomedical research that we're doing here. They run their own chromatography, aquaculture and seafood areas, water quality. They use microscopes. They get to see dive gear up close, and even do some experiments. And so the high school lessons focus on things like harmful algal blooms, invasive species, marine debris, things that they can actually change in their lifetime and make an impact on. And so far, we've had 633 middle and high school students go through this part of the program. And this has led to a lot of really exciting expansions as well. I was also awarded a grant from the EPA to do a Keep the Sea Free of Debris summer camp program in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club that we ran for 2 years and had over 250 teens participate, where they went out and cleaned local beaches, sites along the lagoon, and sites along rivers so we could teach them how trash traveled through their different communities. And they took all of the trash that they collected and made them into marine debris sculptures that we put throughout the community to raise awareness. And just this year, the Boys and Girls Club was awarded funding from the IRL National Estuary Program to do an offshoot of this called Lagoonies. And we've been partnering with them to host beach cleanups at Moores Creek, which is a tributary in central Fort Pierce, where the students have been collecting trash from the surrounding park and from the lagoon. So in total, we've had over 300 students and 20,000 pieces of trash collected through these programs. So they're making a really great impact on their local environment through service. Okay, next up we have our traveling whale program. So one of the things that we do is that one of the big parts of my job is that I provide education components on some of the researchers' grants. And so we have a wildlife veterinarian here that studies dolphins and whales and their health, as well as a marine mammal rescue team that's always on call to help dolphins and whales in distress. And so they came to me and said, how can we teach students about the health of local dolphins and whales? And so we worked with them to create our marine mammal mystery curriculum. And we basically have a series of plushies that we used real cases of animals that Dr. Page responded to in the wild to create animals that the students can conduct a necropsy on. A necropsy is like an autopsy, but on an animal, and you try to determine the cause of death. And so we have a variety of plushies that have different things that are reflective of what dolphins and whales have here in our environment. So boat strikes, entanglements, ingesting marine debris. And we basically came up with an inquiry-driven game where the students will come up with the what happened to the animal, and almost all of these are human-induced, so they can come up with a way that it could have been prevented, because it's all something that can be prevented. And so we've taken these plushies to thousands of events and students all across the state, and it's one of our most popular activities. But the cool thing is we also published a step-by-step guide for people to recreate this in their classroom. So if you're into sewing and you want to help us sew some marine mammal plushies, we would love to have your help. They're full of patterns and all of these different activities. So this was such a hit that our veterinarian said, well, what else can we do to teach students about dolphins and whales? So we upped the ante, and Joey gets full credit for finding this thing. You can find anything on Google. So we have a life-size humpback whale named Humphrey, named by the community through a voting contest, that we take into the community to educate people about whales in Florida. Now, so many people think of whales and they think that they're up in the Northeast and off Hawaii, but we have humpback whales here in Florida every year from December to March. This is where they come to have their babies. And so we have this traveling whale program that we bring out into the community, and it's to scale of a humpback whale, and you can actually go inside and see all of its organs. And so we've brought this whale to about 20 different community events. And overall, we've had more than 16,000 people go inside of it. The largest event that we brought it to was the South Florida Fair, and over a 17-day period, we had 11,000 people in the whale. So really, really, yes, the ladies all get lots of credit for that. So really amazing opportunity. And so we just got a grant to start taking the whale on the road, and we're taking it to local schools. And so our very first school that we brought the whale to was Francis K. Sweet Elementary, the site of our MOA Discovery program. And you can see here the kids had a blast. So they get to learn about the different bones that whales have. They get to hold a brain that we actually sewed and has the actual weight of a whale's brain. Then they get to step inside and see all of these cool organs and learn about what they do and how our scientists here are studying whales and what a veterinarian does and some of the things that plague our local marine mammals, so of course they can become better stewards in the future. And so we are working with the school district of St. Lucie County to take the whale to over 1,000 students this spring. So stay tuned for that. And I just realized, Gabby, we got to bring this to the Boys and Girls Club. So, so hit us up. Okay, so I'm wrapping up here, but just some other things to point out. We also have a lot of informal student engagement besides the programs that I talked about. We have a lot of students that come to our visitor center for field trips and that do other activities. And in total, in the last 2 years alone, we've had over 600 visitors to our Ocean Discovery Visitor Center. The students do a scavenger hunt. They learn about some of the different animals and plants that we study and all the cool technology we use, and even go on campus tours to learn more about some of the work we do. We also have our Speakers Bureau program where we send some of our educators and even our faculty off-site to give presentations to these students, and just in this short period of time we've had over 1,000 students engaged through that as well. Our team also has a really great repository of resources for educators so that they can take this information and use it directly in their classrooms. So we have 7 different curriculum bundles that are accredited through the Florida Department of Education through a partnership with them. They're available on our website and also on CPOMS, which is basically the trusted resource for curriculum throughout the state of Florida. And all of these lesson plans have all the background information, all aligned with Florida Sunshine standards, and step-by-step instructions for teachers to do activities in their classroom with students, and worksheets, and even PowerPoint presentations, so a full kit and caboodle. And they're on a variety of different topics, from marine mammals to aquaculture. We even have 2 bundles for high school students, our Investigating Environmental Changes and our Science from the Sky bundles, that use real data from NASA satellites and our Indian River Lagoon Observatory network of environmental sensors, so that students can use real data and draw conclusions in their classroom. So really successful, and to date we've had over 3,000 downloads of these. We also do a lot to train future educators, and so we have a graduate student assistantship program. So a lot of our employees over the years have been students that are in grad school working on a master's or a PhD, and they have the opportunity to work for us and gain hands-on experience running real education programs. And some of these students have gone on to be employees. So I have a picture of Jen here. She was our very first graduate assistant in 2017, and now she's our assistant director of education. But you can see lots of different grad students. We've had more than 20 that have worked with us. We also take interns in the summer through that intern program, and the students get to go out to the community. They get to run these programs. And just this year, through a partnership with the St. Lucie Economic Development Council, we hosted our first high school intern, Callie, and you can see her in action. She jumped right into these programs and was teaching all of our participants about our aquariums and different topics that she was working on. So really cool way to get the future of educators involved. And all of this is also so important because I can also say that over the last 4 years, I've been serving on the board of the Florida Marine Science Educators Association as the president. And so this year, as I'm getting ready to rotate off the board, my final duty is to host the FEMC 2026 conference, which is going to be here at FAU Harbor Branch in April. And FEMC is a network of over 500 educators all throughout the state, and we come together every year to offer professional development and free resources. And so inviting them here to FAU Harbor Branch is such an amazing opportunity for them to learn about all of the really great work that we do. We're going to have presentations from scientists. The theme this year is connecting the dots, so we're going to be talking about how, as educators, we connect lots of different disciplines like art and science and connecting in learners to different environments and resources. And so the theme's all about connection, and I'm so excited to have everyone here for the conference in April. So if you know of any educators, please let them know that this is happening. All right, so as we wind down here, we're right where we began, right? Training the next generation. So why is all this work so important? Well, it's so important for us as scientists, right, that we train the next generation of not only scientists, but professionals in other STEM fields. These are people who are going to go on to manage our resources, especially here in Florida. That's so important as our climate continues to change, and we need to make sure we protect and preserve what we have. They are also the next generation of problem solvers. So they might not go on to be marine scientists, and that's okay. We want them to have critical thinking skills and be able to solve whatever challenges are ahead of them. We want to build a local workforce, and of course our local teachers, so important. And really students who are going to be ocean advocates and leaders. And so every single one of the programs that I mentioned today, it's important to note that they are all externally funded. And so that's a really big part of my job. I write a lot of grants. And so whether it's a grant, a contract, a donation, everything that you heard of today comes from external funding. And so if there's something that you heard about today that you think is really cool and you want to support it, or an idea of something that you think we could do that would be really cool to work toward, definitely come see me after, or there's a QR code on the screen that you can scan to make a gift. We have some programs like our Ocean Discovery Experience that are completely supported by donor funds. So definitely something that we could use help with. And it's so important. As you can see on the screen here, this is usually an aha discovery moment for these students, right? Whether it's their first time visiting the lagoon, their first time knowing that a seashell actually used to be alive and was a snail, or seeing a cool chemical reaction. That could be the moment that changes a student's mind and actually puts them toward a trajectory of science. So if you're interested in that, please see me after or scan the QR code. We'd love to have your support. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody here who has helped with our programs, all of our staff here at FAU Harbor Branch, and all of our scientists and other members of the FAU Harbor Branch community. I would be remiss without acknowledging Dr. Dennis Hanasak, who was a key contributor to many of these K-12 education programs over his legacy at FAU Harbor Branch. I'd also like to acknowledge all of our community partners and program supporters, and you can see some of the different organizations that I mentioned today, and those that we got funding from. And with that, after this, we're going to have a program showcase. You're welcome to go out into the labs to learn about our teaching areas. You can go out back to see Humphrey, our life-size humpback whale, and actually go inside and see his guts. You can see the posters that the junior scientists presented and even step aboard our floating classroom. So please do go see all of that and learn more about what we do. And there's a group of ladies that would love to meet you and answer your questions. So please chat with them and tell them what an amazing job they all do here. And with that, I'd like to answer any of your questions. I guess I can come out of my podium spot for that.
All right, so we'll be happy to take any questions for the next few minutes. I'll be repeating the question back so the folks watching online or the recordings can know what was asked. And then Gabby will answer. And then, like she said, we'll all be available in the gallery and around the building for additional conversation after the questions and answers. So. Yes?
You said that you use mulch to stifle pepper trees regrowth. What kind of mulch did you use?
So the question was about the type of mulch used to stifle the growth of invasive Brazilian pepper trees.
Thank you. Good question. So they actually mulched the existing Brazilian pepper trees on the site. So the area was full of these invasive trees, and they went through and basically mulched it, and they found the trees can't grow back once they're mulched, and that can just kind of go back and naturally decompose and seed the land. It didn't. No, the trees did not grow back. They were able to see some regrowth, but it was more likely from seeds than actually like mulching the trees. Allie has some really good figures on her poster if you want to see what the baby Brazilian pepper trees look like, but also things like baby mangroves and sable palms and some of the other things that we're starting to establish there on the preserve as well. Thank you. Yes.
The question was if we work in the Banana or the Mosquito Lagoon in addition to the Indian River Lagoon.
Okay, good question. So that's we do a lot of research up in the northern part of the Indian River Lagoon. So we have scientists that are always up there looking at water quality and harmful algal blooms, and even studying some of the dolphins that live there. I would say our education programs don't often make it up there just because it's a little bit far to get the students there. But I really like our area of the lagoon. I think we're very fortunate that being located in the central part of the lagoon, we do have a lot of different habitats, whereas you kind of go north, it gets a little more temperate and less diverse. The questions about other partner organizations. There are, and we partner with a lot of different entities. Up in that area, the Marine Discovery Center and the Marine Science Center, some groups we've worked with, especially through FEMC. We have several members of those organizations on our board. We've hosted a lot of groups for field trips that come from northern parts of the lagoon. We've had some groups that have come like over 2 hours to visit us for field trips. So we're always trying to get the word out there. So if you know people up there, send them our way. Yes. Is that a question or a comment? Thanks, Barbara. I know we have a great team of ladies, that's for sure. Although Brandon is our honorary team member, that's he's smart. Any other questions?
Yeah, in the front.
I'm curious if Harbor Branch has pushed the science of marine science in a generational manner. And if so, could you say a couple of sentences about what?
So the question was if FAU Harbor Branch has kind of tailored, if I understand correctly, marine science education to different generations?
Push the science into a new generation of techniques or discoveries.
That's a really great question, right? So science is always evolving, and we have to also evolve in our education practices too. So it's so interesting. 20 years ago, students didn't even have cell phones in the classroom. Now we have these students, and we're seeing on our field trips that instead of having them texting, hi Gabby, thank you for coming, that we can have them photograph the animals and use it to ID them. Or my favorite thing is telling them, all right, if you want to take a picture today, and when you go back and see your family tonight, use that to tell them about what you did today and teach someone what you learned. So there's all these different tools, right? We have a lot of cutting edge technology, like we talked about with water quality. Back in the day, students were just sampling temperature, salinity by hand. Now we have machines that are doing it. One of the next things, and I'm hoping my summer intern will do this summer, so if you're an undergraduate student listening on the live stream or you guys know someone, there are microscopes that have flow through them where you can take a water sample, put it in there, and it will actually image, analyze, and spit out the data for you. I want that for the boat and our lab. So how cool, though, instead of doing a plankton tow, collecting everything, looking on a slide, counting it, we get this machine that quantifies it for you. And so those are some examples of ways that we can integrate cutting-edge technology into what students are learning today. So yes, that is our goal. The microscope, I think it was around $10,000. I really want two, but I want to get one for our teaching lab here, which I know Semester by the Sea will use, and we can even use it for JSP. But how cool would that be on the boat to take a water sample, put a drop in, and then in real time it'll image all the different things and identify it for the kids. So cool. They do. The question was, does the microscope use AI? And they do. So the scope itself images just through a camera and flow system, but then they can actually use AI programs to sort, quantify, and categorize what it's seeing. Our scientists use this a lot for phytoplankton in the lagoon. They actually created something called the HoloCam, where they do this all the time out in the field. We found a version that is much less expensive, but it'll do the trick for us to be able to do something like that. So maybe you'll see it on the boat soon.
Do you want to do one more question?
Sure, I think.
Awesome. All right, yes.
Okay. In your classes, you're doing the class, okay? How many times have you been amazed by something the students come up with that you hadn't thought of?
That's a good question. So what are some things that we're amazed of that the students come up with that we hadn't thought of? I think the best people to ask those questions to are the ladies when you go out and walk around. They're with the students every day. I can tell you maybe one of my most impactful stories was when we were first starting our ocean discovery program. One of the activities that we do is we teach the kids about underwater turbines and ocean energy and renewable energy, which some of you might remember the lecture on that last year. So we basically 3D printed a little mini turbine. And we bring a tank and we have a power head that makes the water move through, and the students have to go up to the tank and they have to visually look at it and make a prediction. They have to stick their hand in and make a prediction, and then they have to try to use the turbine to make a light bulb turn on with the water. We had a student that was not interested in the biology at all, like dolphins, whales, those are usually the things that pull at the heartstrings. This student didn't care. When he got that turbine, he thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Well, flashback a couple weeks, we're taking them on the tour of Harbor Branch, and we brought them to the high bay where we had the actual underwater turbine, and this kid almost jumped off the golf cart. He screamed, "The turbine!" And I have to say, if that kid doesn't become an engineer, and hopefully an ocean engineer, that was like one of my favorite like student moments. I always think about it. I was thinking about it. I had the kid's picture on there. But anyway, talk to the ladies. Go see the classroom, see the whales, see the poster. Ask them for those experiences because they're the ones that see them every single day. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you. Please enjoy, and we hope to see you next week for Dr. Greg O'Cowrie-Crow's lecture as well. I'll be in the gallery if you have any other questions. Thank you.